third big feature for Fable 2 is, I'd almost forgotten, is co-op. Co-op, of course it's co-op. I mean, that's what we need in role-playing games. And I've played Zelda, I've played Mass Effect, I've played, tons of role-playing games. I love them to bits, but I've really missed the opportunity of playing co-op. And I think first-person shooters have had it for a long time. RTSs have had it forever. Why don't we have it in RPGs? And that's what I'm going to show you today. But of course, this is Lionhead, and we have to be stupid. We can't just be simple about co-op. We have to go over the top and promise a lot of stuff and hopefully deliver on it. So let's just talk a little bit about co-op. I'm going to show you 50% of our co-op, and that is the couch co-op. And I'm going to show you some things that you perhaps haven't seen co-op before. So let's have a look at that now. Now before we talk about co-op, let's just introduce you to the way the world looks today. This is how it looks. The game is actually all working. The world is fully realised. We can you can wander around the whole world now, and I'm actually demoing today playing as a woman. Only because I was asked to. I don't feel terribly comfortable playing as a woman. It's all swollen ankles, and it's difficult to actually. You realise I've been playing now, I've been chatting up men, and I've actually got married, and I've been pregnant. It's a difficult journey I've undertaken, and I really have found problems. But this character, you have a choice at the start of the game of playing as a man or woman. She is completely morphable, just like the man. And she goes to extremes of looking evil or good and growing horns or having halos and becoming fat or thin or tall and all of the morphing that you saw in Fable 1, which we're going to be showing later on. Anyway, let's invite Josh Atkins. Josh Atkins is one of the people who is helping to balance and refine our combat, which is an incredibly tough job and taking an enormous amount of skill to do. And we'll talk a bit about the combat later on. Let's invite Josh into the co-oping stuff. Now, to start off with, if you're going to design co-oping from the ground up, what are the things co-op should have? First thing it should have is the ability to dynamically co-op at any point during the game. You shouldn't have to leave the game, go back to the front screen, start up another game session and invite someone in. So absolutely, totally dynamic. Josh walks in, I throw him the controller, he presses the start button, he's in my world. That's the first thing. Second thing is, if Josh is playing Fable himself, he should be able to continue to earn experience in my world to take back to his world. That's really important, and I don't think many games, if any games, have done that before. If I'm being a hero in your world, why shouldn't I earn experience? And indeed gold. So you see this down here, on the left-hand side, you can decide how much your henchman, your co-player, gets of all the gold, experience and now earned while they're in the world. So I could say to Josh, I'm sorry Josh, you're not getting anything. I'll keep it all for myself, or here you go Josh, you can have everything. So that's the second big thing. The third big thing is that you can export all that gold and experience back into your world. And you can take gifts with you of certain items. So let's just have a look at what that's like. Josh is based upon... Did I press red? Yes. I did, didn't I? Sorry.
Let's try that again.
Yeah. Josh's looks are based upon what his hero is like. And if he hasn't got a hero, then it's based upon what my hero looks like. So at the moment he looks like this. He can do, as my co-op buddy, anything that I can do. Completely free to do any expression that I can do. So I can laugh at him, he can shut up girls, he can fight enemies, he can use the combinational combat, or anything that I can do, he can do. So it's completely co-op. But what we have chosen to make it all on one screen, rather like Lego Star Wars, rather than doing split screen, because we felt that really added to the experience. I don't like the split screen feeling that it gives you kind of constructs the world. So that's pretty cool for a list of co-op, for a list of co-op features. Now let's just show off what it's like to do our combat. I showed you a lot about combat at E3. How does it work with co-op stuff? Well, let's show you that now. My dog is warning me about something, and the thing that he's warning me about is just over here. I can ignore that and carry on going through the world, or I can use something called look-ats to actually look at it in more detail. Anyway, he's just shown me these two birdies, so I'm going to go in and we'll just show off what the combat is like these days. For a start, we have got guns, and guns are pretty cool. Guns kind of work like swords. You remember what I showed you at E3 with the crescendo combat? All of that works in co-op stuff. So I can go with my sword, I can build up a big strike, I can do button mashing, I can do rhythm combat, rhythm-based combat, and exactly the same applies with guns. I can fire quickly, I can hold down the aim and fire more accurately. Ooh, don't even. I almost shot you, sorry. And I can fire with rhythm. That means that the blue button does swordy things, the yellow button does gunny things, and you can probably guess what the red button does, magic-y things. Magic works exactly the same way. Tapping, doing with rhythm, and holding. And you are, this is the coolest thing, you're completely free to develop your own combat style. If you want to, you can just focus completely on swords, forget about the other two buttons. If you want to, you can do swords and guns dynamically. So let's have a look at that dynamic co-op combat now. So Josh is going to go in. If you do swords first, I'll do guns. So I helped him out there. I shot someone he was attacking. We get double experience for that. If he throws someone up in the air and I shoot that person, then I get double experience again. So we're free to just keep on doing that. I'll quickly change, so we're now both using swords. I'll charge up a big sword attack. I could charge up a big sword attack while he protects me. That totally dynamic co-op is really, really important. And mixing that with magic is really super, super good. Where's the last one? Here. Oh, I did it. Sorry, that's the first time today I've done that. That was in the middle of a cutscene. I shot the main character in the middle of a cutscene. Nothing, everything in Fable is real. I could even shoot him while he was going down. So that was crescendo combat, music cutting in depending on our combat style, with real true team play combat. So he was throwing things up in the air for me to shoot, or we were attacking at the same time. That's pretty cool. Now, any questions about that combat?
When you play couch co-op, are you bringing your character in from a memory card, or are you able to do that through live?
I can't.
Okay.
But that's a pretty good idea. There's a really cool thing that we're going to show off later on in the year.
Okay. Very cool.
So let's go and meet my family. Now, just to bring you up to date on the family side, I got married 5 years ago, and we had our first and only baby 6 months after getting married, and I have been doing a bit of house speculation and managed to move my family into this nice farmhouse. But I've been off adventuring for 6 months, so I haven't actually seen my family for 6 months. So I'm going to introduce you to my son and my husband. Sounds a bit strange saying those things, but there you go. Here's my son.
Mum!
And you'll notice that...
Mum! I thought you'd never come back. Don't ever leave us all alone again.
how that's all in simulation. If I had been back earlier than this, he wouldn't say that stuff. And ask yourself how that makes you feel. Having a son there who comes out and says, "Mum, where have you been?"
Great, I can be a bad parent in a game.
You can. I'd love to talk about that. About those things. Let's go meet my husband. And this next bit is really amazing because we've been making this up for the last few
I was
hours.
starting to wonder if you were still alive.
So he's just really nagging me.
Isn't easy, you know.
And over the last few demos, Josh is getting pretty sick of that.
Pretty annoying.
So he did this. And we didn't plan this to happen. He shot my husband. And we're actually going to do this in the keynote tomorrow because it's so funny. But how amazing that is that he shot my husband, orphaned my child, and has ended up coming into my world and changing it for the time. Because my husband is now completely dead. That's really what I call co-op. It's more than just fighting in the game. It's more than just showing off. It is actually changing. Co-oping with someone will actually change the world slightly.
So can you go visit his house now and shoot his wife?
Yeah, he could invite me into his world. He probably would never do that. But
And I'm a really nice person in real life, just for the record.
So the husband dying in front of the son, does that affect the son at all?
we actually had to take that out. We had to take that out because it was a little bit too harrowing. Because we thought about this last night, and we quickly changed it so the son ran off. Because seeing in a keynote a parent die and your child weep over the parent's body was a little bit harrowing.
So that would happen if you were playing at home.
Yeah, but we were playing at home, absolutely. And as soon as I leave the region now, my son will be taken to an orphanage, which is pretty harrowing stuff.
So did you have to carry while you were playing the game?
Sorry?
Were you pregnant during the game, or is it kind of just like a 9-month flash?
No, absolutely, you're pregnant. And when we enlarge your breasts, and there are sort of metaphysical
It's
changes.
funny that that's always the first big piece you mentioned about being pregnant. I would have said you made the stomach bigger, but no.
Well, no, you know, the breasts do get larger as well. But you're absolutely right. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm a bit worried that we might have to drop this feature because the thought of, I don't know, newspapers and that going on, well, you go out as a pregnant woman and you get stabbed with a sword.
Yeah.
You can just imagine the field days that people like that can have, which is a real shame, I think.
Exactly.
Because, but we can do it. This is the way it works at the moment. You have unprotected sex, and after a little while, it says you're pregnant. That's it. And you continue playing, and then after a little while, you then have to stop.
So how many kids have the testers had in one game?
Well, I've actually got another husband in another village.
Okay.
And it's a much more successful family. This husband's a bit lonely. Because remember, it's all simulation. So if you can meet a wife or a husband, let's talk about wives now. You can meet a wife who is not so lonely, who actually quite likes you adventuring. And there's another wife who would hate you adventuring.
Can a male hero have a husband or a female hero have a wife?
Same way you support same-sex marriage, as we did in Fable. But you can't have children.
Right.
Incidentally, the world, just a couple of other things, the world is completely free roamable. This fence is not like a fence in Fable 1, you can jump over it, you can explore everywhere. Every building can be purchased and bought, you can move your family into it, you can run shops, you can buy castles. So we're really proud of how Fable 2 showed. Any questions?
Can the co-op player bring their dog into the picture here?
No, a lot of people lost that. The reason is that the dog's a very expensive character. He's completely under AI. Having 2 of those AI creatures around is a problem. So we have to restrict you bringing the dog in.
So is this a completely different tale, or any of the things from Fable 1 going to be continued as far as like the storyline and the plot?
Well, that's a very good question. The storyline is that it's 500 years further on, and the world of Albion kind of has forgotten about heroes. The Heroes Guild has fallen into ruins. In fact, no one knows where it is anymore. Money and wealth and power and government and monarchy are more important than heroes. And that's the first opening moment of this game is when you start as an 8-year-old in this massive city called Bowerstown, which you saw a little bit of, a little corner of in the GDC demo and the E3 demo. And you start as this 8-year-old, and that's the opening point again. There are some characters from the Fable 1 world. If you know about them, you'll recognise them. You will, without spoiling too much, you will revisit the guild.
Oh, cool.
Which is, if you remember from Fable 1, the guild was destroyed in a fire, and you revisit that destroyed place.
Cool.
I could tell you an awful lot more.
So don't want to spoil it for me either.
Interesting story. There's some interesting twists in the stories. We really are pushing the boat out on every choice of consequence. And because the very interesting thing that we found from Fable 1 is that because 70% of the people played as good, and of the remaining 30%, only 10% of the remaining 30% kept on playing the game as evil. The other 20% actually couldn't bear it. After a little while they started playing as good. So almost 90% of the people play as good. We're going to really test that. Really test how good you really are. And there's some very, very harrowing times up. And I would say, giving you hints, you don't have to get married at all. You never have to get married, never have to have children. If you do get married and have children, we'd be stupid not to involve your family in the story. And that can be a little bit harrowing for you.
Is the co-op player at any point in the game is also the entire storyline they can be with you? And then is the people you meet, you're playing with an evil character, you're a good character, but your friend's an evil character, we see people coming up and responding to you both different ways.
They'll actually say, what are you doing hanging out with a horrible person like that? Absolutely. You heard the husband, there's a line that a husband said, is, who's this you bought? And it looks horrible, it looks awful, because Josh is slightly evil. But absolutely, this is all under simulation. It is. I'd love to show you this stuff off. That's the next thing I'll probably show off after GDC. Is the simulation stuff, and it's truly amazing. It really is. Going into a town, we could go in to a town. In fact, we could do this scene like 6 times. One with just our husband and me. The next time with a henchman character. The next time we could put some people around. And just see how the whole scene plays out. 6 times it play out in completely different ways. If you only have to have a few villagers there, and they see Josh shoot my husband, and it completely changes what people think of me and my character. That's pretty amazing, really.
You have I noticed you don't have the angel halo and the horns in at this point. Is that something you're going to introduce later, or have you?
No, there's so much stuff we've got yet to show off, and one is the morphing. And I'll be talking a little bit about morphing in my talk. And we've got extreme morphs now, so the hero goes to the extreme of evil, the extreme of good, the extreme of what we call purity, and the extreme of what we call corruption, the extreme of strength, the extreme of what we call will power, and these are all extremes. So you can literally have something looking like Incredible Hulk, or you can have something looking like scrawny, almost like a golem character. They're very, very extremes. And what we morph now is not only visually the character, we morph the way they're held. If you're corrupt, you can walk around like a henchman, like a Jekyll and Hyde like.
So you don't really need the halo in the horns anymore. Cause
No, I really, I wanted it to be. I think that's a very interesting. Just turn it. You got that. Just turn it out. There's a very interesting thing on this, which is turned out to be quite unexpected for me. Is that I think last E3 I was talking about death in Fable and the idea that I didn't want the old conventional death mechanic where you died and then had to go back 20 minutes and then repeat the same combat. I hated that, and so we had this death mini game where if you played it, when your character died, you just slumped on the floor and all the bandits came up and started kicking you out, and you had to play this mini game, and then you got up and carried on fighting the combat. And the cost of not doing that mini game well is that you were scarred. And the amazing thing we found about that is that the testers who played, got really upset about scarring. And this bizarre thing happened. A huge number of these testers, what they used to do was to go in, have a fight, collapse down dead, reboot the game and reload from the same game, emulating exactly what death was before, because the thought of having just a single scar on their face was so abhorrent to them. And other testers actually just played it and tried to get every scar they possibly could, and literally, went to bed leaving the heroes on the floor being kicked. And so, we had to look again at that death mechanic. Because it was so important, the look of your hero was so important to people. And that's the same is true of the morphing and how people look.
That's the first thing I thought of. Was I'll say it before we comment.
Yeah. Interesting, yeah.
Right, guys, any last questions?
Does it sound like the death mechanic has been changed since the last?
It's the mini game that the death is the same. If we died now, you don't reload at all. You just carry on. And as it turns out, I don't think I've never heard anything. What is important in combat is if I just
3 more, 5 more out.
So, what is important that turns out to be really important in combat is this little tiny, I'm not doing a terribly good job, you see this stuff on the ground, that's experience. And the more you have of that stuff, the more you're going to go up levels. And we've got a lot of levels for you to go up. I mean, the chances of anybody getting to the top level by the end of the story is very, very minimal. And that's the stuff that you're going to lose when you die. All the stuff that was on the ground, you'll lose that. And that turns out to be pretty big. It's surprising how little it matters. You'd think this is a very interesting philosophical point. You'd think that death should be such a big penalty, you should go back in time. But it actually matters. It actually doesn't matter terribly. It doesn't feel like we're giving you a huge benefit if you didn't die. Last question, anyone?
How big is the world? Is it significantly larger than
well, this particular world here is completely explorable. If you can see it anywhere, you can go there. You can. I've been forbidden to. The developers, they knew I'd be showing off, so they've stopped me going in places. But everywhere that you look like you can go to. So you can jump over fences. It's a very hard question. As I don't know, something like 20 regions, and they're all fully explorable, free roamable. Underneath that, we've got something like 30 dungeons, which are huge. I mean, it must be 10 times the size. You know how much?
It seems like it's about 10 times as big as the Fable one. Those regions are 4 or 5 times as large as the Fable one region.
Absolutely. And they're all work under simulation as well. So they kind of auto scale themselves.